Every year, hundreds of thousands of children go missing. Many are found, but too many never return. In forensic astrology, we see way too many cases like these: abductions, murders, and assaults on children that bring endless pain and grief to so many. That's why, for a change, I wanted to bring you a case that ended on a positive note, a rare, happy ending. We just don't see enough of those. Welcome to my channel, Star Sleuth, where true crime meets the cosmos. This was a special case for me personally because I was just learning forensic astrology at the time it happened, and my own findings surprised me. The case made national news in 2002 when 14-year-old Elizabeth Smart was abducted from her home under cover of night in Salt Lake City, Utah. Her sister called 911 at 4:01 a.m. on June 5, 2002, to report her disappearance, and that time will serve as the basis for the crime chart. In my work, I use various tools, including degree theory, Sabian symbols, and asteroids, to gain as much information as possible on a case. I'll share these methods in this video. First, we want to look at the ascendant, which shows the victim. Here, the ascendant is 6 degrees of Taurus. What do we know about this sign? It's feminine and passive. And 6 is the Virgo degree, so we can also think virgin or young maiden, which Elizabeth was. Next, we consider the Sabian symbol. For this, you look not at the exact degree the sign is in, but in the next degree. So for the ascendant, we're looking at 7 Taurus and not 6. The reason is that degree 1 represents anything from 0 minutes of arc up to 1. So anything between, say, 11 and 12 counts as 12, and so on. You always look at the number that follows the degree. In Sabian symbols, the 7-degree Taurus represents a woman of Samaria. These symbols can sound weird and arcane, but they really carry strong symbolic meanings. And in this case, the Sabian symbols were right on the money. Why? For Samaria, think Bible. Samaria was an ancient town mentioned in the Bible where the Good Samaritan came from. In the Hebrew Bible, Samaria became associated with idolatry and disobedience to God. And so we see the downside of this symbol, which is debasing and carefree dissolution. Protected or not, there's still serious trouble ahead for Elizabeth. Did religion play a part in this crime? We'll see that it definitely did. Where is the ascendant ruler? Venus here is in the 3rd house of her environment at 18 Cancer, again a feminine sign, and again it's in the Virgo degree. Venus is also cadent, not able to take control of her circumstances. But she's very close to Jupiter in Cancer, which is its sign of exaltation, making it very powerful. Right away when I saw this, I thought this girl had some kind of protection with the proximity to Jupiter. And I didn't see any malefics that might have shown death or murder. Jupiter does rule the 8th of death and murder, but being so well placed and unafflicted, I felt like this child might stand a chance. Jupiter is also associated with religion, again emphasizing this theme that continues to surface through the symbolism. The 5th house of children and family has Virgo on the cusp, and Mercury is in the 1st house in Gemini. Mercury in Gemini also shows the sister who called 911, Gemini being the sign of communication and siblings. The Sabian symbol for Venus, which would be at 19 Cancer, says, a priest performing a marriage ceremony, and its negative expression is bondage to outer form. So once again, we have a connection to religion or somebody's deluded fantasy blamed on religion at the crux of this case, and bondage as well. The moon is in the 12th house of abductions and kidnapping, and it's in the aggressive sign of Aries, showing repressed rage, delusion, and captivity. Aries in the 12th shows a bottling up of pent up strong emotions and anger. Not a good place, as it suggests violence and abuse. The moon sextiles Neptune in the 10th, again a delusion of sorts, and we can begin to think that the abductor was some kind of religious fanatic, with possibly a sexual fetish for a young virginal girl. All these religious clues ended up being spot on. Elizabeth Smart was kidnapped by Brian David Mitchell, a self proclaimed religious prophet, and his wife, Wanda Barzee. Held captive for 9 months, Elizabeth endured abuse and manipulation as this couple moved her in disguise between remote campsites and public settings. The moon's dispositor is Mars, which rules the 7th house of the perpetrator, and Moon and Mars happen to be in mutual reception. They rule each other's signs. Mitchell had help in the form of his wife. Elizabeth was intended to become a part of their family, and they often appeared in public with her while keeping her disguised as a family member. Neptune, ruler of deception and delusion, is in the 10th house of the public. For Brian Mitchell, the Sabian symbol for the descendant is deep sea dives, and its negative expression is an absurd form of escapism. Another clue to the perpetrator's warped religious delusion and need to abduct and keep a young girl captive. Mars in the chart opposes Chiron at 7 Capricorn in the 9th house of religion. So, in his delusion, he thought that committing to this partnership would be a religious healing experience. This experience included abusing and molesting Elizabeth, which he felt perfectly justified in doing. So now let's look at the Sabian symbol for Mars. Game birds feathering their nest. And here we see that Mars is debilitated in Cancer, sign of the nest and family and home. He was prepping Elizabeth for a role within his warped family structure, seeking safety and security within the confines of an absurd, misguided religious dogma. And this theme is reinforced by Pluto, his co ruler, which is in conjunction with the South Node in the 8th house, showing an obsessed sexual delusion fueled by misguided religious beliefs. This activity was mired in a pattern of behavior that may have gone on for generations. Pluto is also in opposition to Saturn, one of the scariest and most destructive oppositions out there. That opposition was active between Saturn in Gemini and Pluto in Sagittarius during 9/11, which was largely blamed on religious fundamentalism and extremism. It's so fortunate that Elizabeth's life had the protection of Jupiter, even though what she endured was still horrific. The North Node at 17 degrees Gemini is within mere minutes of arc of Saturn in Gemini. The North Node indicates the lesson to be learned, where our paths should take us, and here it shows a harsh karmic lesson being taught by these circumstances. Its Sabian symbol, two men talking Chinese, and the negative expression shows dissipation of selfhood through alien relationship. The Chinese part sounds really weird, like it doesn't fit in, but it actually does. The perpetrator was speaking a whole different language from that normally understood. It highlights his lack of connection to what is fair and just in the real world. And he did commit acts of dissipation. After all, he kidnapped an innocent underage girl and attempted to establish a relationship with her after stealing her from her home and subjecting her to abuse and captivity. So let's take a quick look at the asteroids here because they're very meaningful. But before, let me just mention something briefly. If you're at all interested in asteroid interpretation, please check out my book, Asteroids Are Cosmic Influencers, which is available through Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, and all online book retailers. In the chart, Mars squares Persephone at 5 degrees Libra, and that's a literal dead hit. It describes Elizabeth's situation perfectly. In Greek and Roman mythology, Persephone was a beautiful young maiden who was lusted after by Hades, god of the underworld, who also happened to be her uncle. Zeus, brother of Hades, saw nothing wrong with sending Persephone to become his bride, and Hades kept her in the underworld against her will. Here, Mars squaring Persephone is testament to that unhappy situation. Also, Persephone is on the cusp of the sixth house of slavery and bondage, and Elizabeth was kept in a hellacious situation herself. Venus, Elizabeth's main ruler, is in opposition to Nessus, which plainly stated speaks of sexual abuse and physical violation. And Neptune opposes Nictimony, another sad representative of female abuse and mistreatment. At the same time, the moon in Aries trines Nictimony in Leo, sign of love and lust, which reinforces the perpetrator's evil motives. But we can be glad of one thing. In March 2003, Elizabeth's kidnappers were caught, convicted, and imprisoned, and she was safely returned to her family. Her case drew worldwide attention, sparking reforms in child abduction alerts and victim advocacy. She has since become a prominent voice for survivors of kidnapping and abduction. In the world of forensic astrology, few cases resolve with hope. Most crime charts echo sorrow. Yet this story stands apart. Unlike so many others, Elizabeth Smart was found, returned to her family, alive. And while we were talking religion, thank God for this happy ending. I'm BD Salerno. Thank you for watching.